couple of weeks ago, I posted a video talking about the fact that the Pixel Fold 2 is going to be called the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, and I sort of laid out an argument for why that naming change was potentially a good thing. But in this video, we're going to dig a little bit deeper, and we're going to ask the big question. Is the Pixel 9 Pro Fold really all that pro? I've actually been thinking about how I would present this video for a little while, and the holdup has primarily been me just sort of ruminating on this concept of pro. What actually makes a phone pro? Yes, we can call the phone pro, but what actually is it that makes it pro, right? Is it the speed of the processor? Is it the size and speed of the storage, the amount of RAM, the brightness and size of the screen? Is it the camera hardware, the camera performance? Is it software features? And I really couldn't decide what the answer was. So what we're going to do is we're going to cover a whole bunch of these topics, pretty much everything I just said, and determine step by step just how pro is this thing. Let's start off with the big one. I think the one that most frequently is pointed out as being the thing that needs to be pro, and that is the camera hardware. What you're looking at right now via GSM Arena is the camera hardware for the Pixel 9 Pro Fold. And I'm going to give you the short answer to the question first. Is this pro? I would say, no, this is not pro, but let's dig a little bit deeper anyway. So it's the same sensor, the same 48 megapixel sensor that we have on the original Pixel Fold. I believe that maybe the telephoto is staying the same. Maybe it's the ultra wide that's changing. One of them is a slightly newer sensor that's actually smaller than the older sensor it used to be. So it's newer, which is good, but it's smaller, which is bad. At the end of the day, it's going to basically be a wash, and you can look at the rest of the specs. None of this stuff is particularly exciting. When you stack it up to something like a OnePlus Open, this thing has far more pro camera hardware. When you stack it up against the Z Fold 6, they're not that far apart. They're actually very, very similar. You might still give the nod even there to the Z Fold 6. So is the camera hardware on the Pixel 9 Pro Fold Pro, does it deserve that name? I would say absolutely not, it doesn't. But I do want to push back on that just a little bit, because I think we have to ask ourselves, what actually matters? The camera hardware or the camera performance, the photos and videos that it actually produces? Because if we care about the actual results, you can make an argument for the Pixel 9 Pro Fold camera system being pro. Let me kind of lay that out for you. First off, it's a Pixel. It's going to take good photos. We know that the video performance should be improving. Let's be real though, the video performance on the Pixel Fold 1 wasn't all that great, and the sensor is staying the same for the primary. So I would imagine in low light, it's probably still going to struggle. And I would imagine in photography at low light, it'll struggle a little bit too. But when you stack it up against the Z Fold 6 and the OnePlus Open, I would bet that the raw output it produces is going to be right there with the best of them, just like it already is. And then on the flip side of this, we do have to think about some of the software features, and it does have pretty much all of them that the flagship Pro phones, Pixel 9 Pro, Pixel 9 Pro XL, all of those features. It's missing two things. It is missing the 8K upscaling with NVIDIA Boost, and it's missing the Super Res Zoom video, because both of these sensors, whether it's the telephoto or the primary, they're not good enough. They're not high enough resolution to really be able to do that stuff. And that is a bummer. Definitely drop that stone onto the side of the scale for not very pro or not pro enough. But again, just keep that stuff in mind, right? It's going to have good camera performance. It's going to be just as good as any other foldable. And it's going to have all this Pixel stuff, right? It's going to have the new Magic Editor with Reimagine. It's going to have Video Boost. It's going to have Add Me and Best Take, and on and on and on. So again, do we care about the hardware, or do we care about what you can actually do with the hardware? That part is up to you. With the hardware, not very pro. What about the performance, the system on a chip? How pro is the Tensor G4? You can kind of make a few different arguments, right? So from just a raw processing power perspective, in particular, if you're looking at synthetic benchmarks, which I've talked about this many times, I don't think synthetic benchmarks tell you a whole lot more than how devices score on synthetic benchmarks. I don't think we can call the Tensor G4 a particularly pro system on a chip. I think that it's going to be slower than the Qualcomm equivalents, and there's probably going to be even some MediaTek processors that won't be that far off. I am encouraged by the improvements in efficiency that we are seeing. We'll talk about battery life and charging a little bit later, but I don't think anybody can reasonably call this thing a pro processor. Now, you could have potentially said, oh yes, but Shane, Tensor is targeting very specific tasks, and this is true, right? Google has openly stated they don't care about benchmarks. They're not trying to hit particular scores. They're trying to make a processor that's good at the specific things they're trying to do, and these are AI-based tasks, right? On-device AI stuff. My biggest problem with that is that we've seen time and again with things like Magic Editor, which now run on everything you want to run it on. You don't actually need a Tensor to do these things. Is the Tensor good at these things? Absolutely. But you can go to a Qualcomm processor that's going to do it just as well, and it's going to be faster in every task, and it's going to have better gaming performance, better video processing performance as well. To do my same sort of pushback on this, though, I will argue that just like how my Pixel Fold in day-to-day use is just as smooth, if not smoother, than my Z Fold 6 and my OnePlus Open, I would imagine that the Pixel 9 Pro Fold in daily normal use is going to be very, very smooth, very, very snappy. But when you throw the word Pro on there, you got to hit a certain threshold, and I don't believe that any of the Tensor-driven Pixels quite hit that mark. Battery and charging. Is that pro? Well, what do we have? We have a 4600 milliamp hour battery, and we have 21 watt wired charging. Unequivocally, no, that is not pro. We have devices around like the OnePlus Open that have larger batteries that have much, much faster 67 watt wired charging. This is frankly the weakest part of the device for me. It's absolutely just not good enough. It's laughable that this is still where we are. We gotta speed up that charging speed. Like I said, we are seeing the Pixel 9 Pro devices exhibit much better battery life than we were expecting. There's a new, more efficient modem in the Tensor itself. They're saying is like 20% more efficient. So battery life itself will probably be right there with the best foldables, but the charging, battery size, we cannot call that pro. How about storage? It is good that we're not getting a 128 gigabyte Pixel 9 Pro Fold. It is starting at 256, but it is UFS 3.1, and that is starting to show its age. Just a little bit. One big piece of good news, though, is 16 gigabytes of RAM. If anything's pro, it's pumping tons of extra RAM onto your device. In this instance, it is there for the LLMs. I was telling you guys this months ago. That's what it's there for, and that I think is quite pro. So for storage and RAM, kind of a mixed bag. RAM's great. The storage, we need to get some faster storage on there. That is definitely lagging behind a little bit. So most of these things I've laid out aren't very pro, right? So what does Google mean when they say that the Pixel 9 Pro Fold is pro? Well, we do know that the hardware itself does have a lot of really nice improvements. Everyone that's touched this thing says it's a big step forward over the original Fold. Granted, you may be like me, and you may be part of the cult of landscape foldables, and if you are, then I get where you would push back on me in this instance. But again, most people say that this thing does look significantly better. The hinge apparently does sort of snap its way to a fully flat posture, much like other foldables on the market have managed to do. So that is a good improvement. The screens themselves are significantly brighter, something like 80% brighter, 2700 nits of peak brightness. That is outstanding, and that puts it towards the top of the heap for all of these other foldables. So you could argue with a 5.1 millimeter thick device, crazy bright screens, a re-engineered hinge, that the hardware itself is in that pro territory. But more than anything else, I think what Google means when they say that this thing is pro is that they mean it's not like the original Pixel Fold, which ran the Tensor G2, while the current flagship ran the Tensor G3. Pixel Fold users were left wondering, is Best Take ever coming back to my device? When am I getting Circle to search? When is Magic Editor making its way to my device? With the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, you don't have to worry about any of that stuff because the answer is just going to be yes. Does it have that feature? With exception to Super Res Zoom video and 8K upscaling, the answer just is yes. Now, it's important to mention that it is missing those two features, and that is a problem. But by and large, all of these features, whether you're talking about all of the crazy Gemini stuff, you're talking about the image generation stuff within Pixel Studio, Pixel screenshots, all of the stuff that they mentioned, they announced a lot of features for the Pixel 9 devices. They're all there day one for the Pixel 9 Pro Fold. It's on that bleeding edge, and that is a big deal. Whether or not you think that makes it a Pro device is up to you, but at least it's not a second-class citizen anymore. So guys, those are my thoughts on this Pixel 9 Pro Fold thing. In general, this is a little bit of a mixed bag for me. I can absolutely see anyone that says this should not be a Pro device. This should just be the Pixel Fold 2. I can absolutely see where you're coming from. And in fact, Google was very, very close to launching this thing as the Pixel Fold 2. The only reason they put that Pro name in there is to communicate the stuff that I just said. The fact that this is not a second-class citizen anymore. But I think it's a really interesting conversation. Let me know in those comments down below if there's anything about a Pro device you can think of that I left off. And let me know if you think that this phone is actually going to hit that mark. Are you bothered by the name? Do you think what they're communicating is accurate? Do you think it's a little bit of a sort of a false marketing thing, which I could definitely see that as well? Hit those comments down below. I have pre-ordered my Pixel 9 Pro Fold out of my own pocket. If you're wondering where my Pixel 9 Pro XL videos are, I don't know what's happening. Team Pixel has just not sent anybody a phone. They told us they were sending us one, and then they've not sent anybody anything. So that video, those videos may or may not be coming, but I paid for the Fold out of my own pocket. So that will be happening once that phone is released. So you got to subscribe. You don't miss out on those videos. I'll see you on the next one. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.